All right, there we are. Hi, everyone.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. We're going to hold on just a second here while some people hop on. There we go.
There's Lori.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, Jerry.
Christina. Ashley and Aaron. Priscilla.
Welcome, everyone.
All right, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. We have a special guest with us today. Katie with Haygain is here, and she's going to go over hay steamers with us.
And don't forget to put all of your questions in the comments, because at the end of this live video, we will be giving away a Haygain gift prize, a prize package. So make sure you ask Katie all your questions about the hay steamer, or just say hello and let us know that you're here so you can be entered to win this awesome prize. So with that, Katie, we are going to turn it over to you, and you have the floor.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies. Thank you, everyone, for joining in and listening and wanting to know more about the Haygain. So I know a few people have probably heard of the Haygain Hay Steamer before. Maybe some of you haven't. So just to kind of start off as to what it is and what it does. The Haygain Hay Steamer is a hay steamer for horses. And so what that does is, by steaming the hay, you're able to reduce over 99% of the mold, the bacteria, the dust, and the fungi. And what's really interesting too about the Haygain is there is a ton of research that went into not only developing this product, but also ongoing research. And so a lot of times too, we get the question of, well, you know, if I feed good hay, why do I necessarily need to steam the hay? And so even the best quality hay is going to have levels of mold, bacteria, and dust. And so what that can do over time is actually really irritate your horse. Obviously, it's also a great product for horses who, do unfortunately already have existing respiratory conditions. It also adds moisture into the hay as well. By steaming the hay, you're able to increase the moisture over 3 times. So obviously, we all, if you're a horse owner, you know that getting extra moisture into your horse is always important. Especially if you're traveling, if you're showing, they're maybe not drinking as much. Even horses that have colicked before, so getting that extra moisture in, is always a benefit as well. For horses, that you need to soak their hay due to the dust, you're able to just steam their hay instead. What a lot of times people don't know too is, we've kind of a lot of people are so used to soaking hay that actually soaking hay can increase the bacteria, which can lead to kind of, a whole host of other problems that we don't really want to have to deal with our horses. And so if you do have a horse that, has allergies and has dust, you're able to just steam their hay and make sure you're giving them the cleanest hay possible. This unit I have right here, this is our mid-sized unit. It tends to be the most popular. It's starting a steam cycle right now. It's not quite yet finished yet, but I'm just going to open up so you can kind of see what's going on. So that is the lovely steam that is happening. As you can see, there's some hay in here now. And actually, I was steaming it before, so this hay actually is already steamed and ready to go. And so you can see too, when you steam the hay, a lot of times we get the question of, okay, is it as damp as when you soak the hay? Are my horses going to eat it? Steaming hay, actually, in research studies show that it increases the palatability for horses. Some veterinarian clinics will even use it post-surgery to get the horse to eat. So as you can see, the steamed hay, it's not soaked like when you soak the hay. It's, definitely a little bit damp. It's also a little bit softer, which is nice as well. This unit right here, like I said, most popular, it holds about like half a bale, 3/4 of a 2-string bale. It holds about like 30, 35 pounds. So it's not quite done with its steaming cycle. It's almost there. The steam cycle itself takes an hour. That's start to finish. That includes the time it takes for the boiler to kind of, ramp up and get the water boiled. It can be set on a timer. So you don't have to necessarily sit here and wait the entire hour. A lot of times I get clients who say, yeah, that all sounds great. I'd love to steam for my horses. This sounds wonderful. I don't have an hour to sit around. How am I gonna fit this into my routine? So if you put it on a timer, it's super easy. You can feed it up to 24 hours post-steam. So it's not like you have to steam it and feed it right away. So a lot of clients, myself included, will, kind of steam the feeding before, have it ready when you walk into the barn, have it set on a timer. I think that's one of the biggest questions is people see this and sometimes they get a little intimidated that it's going to be difficult to fit into their everyday barn routine. And it's really simple. I tell people I can even get my non-horsey husband to do it. So I think that says a lot. But I have my horses at home. I steam every day for them. They absolutely love it. I've noticed too, since putting them on the steam hay, a lot of times, you'll go out to the paddock and after a week or so of, feeding, it's been a little while since you cleaned your paddock up, you'll see all the loose hay on the bottom that, maybe they've kind of picked through or are not finished. And by starting them on the steam hay, I've seen a huge reduction in waste, which is really nice. It's, cut down my job of cleaning the paddock drastically. And then also I know too, all the money I'm spending on hay is actually getting into their bellies and not just on the ground in the mud. But yeah, so I'd love to hear, that's kind of the general rundown of the hay steamer, what it is, what it does, the benefits for your horse. And I'd love to hear what questions everyone has and what I can answer.
Okay. Kathleen asks, will it freeze in the wintertime with the water in it?
So the hay steamer itself, we do recommend the boiler, which is a small black unit. That's what generates the steam. If you're going to be in a temperature where it's going to drop below freezing, what we do tell you is to just make sure after using it that you dump the water out. I tell people treat it like a bucket or a hose. So either bring it into a heated tap room, a garage, or just dump it out and drain it. It's very simple to do. You just, unscrew it and dump the water out, and then, use it for next time. I use mine all winter. Most people, we have tons of clients, I'm in Connecticut, I'm in the Northeast. I do have a heated area, but I have a lot of clients who don't, and they just make sure to empty their boiler. That way it doesn't freeze.
We have a couple questions on how much it weighs.
The actual unit itself?
Yes.
So this unit itself, this has wheels. I'm not sure exactly how much it weighs. It's not incredibly heavy. Like I personally can pick it up by myself, put it in the back of a pickup truck. It does have wheels on it. I would say it's roughly, around like 35 pounds or so. The boiler, the smaller unit, that's about less than 10 pounds. So, certainly something that you can pick up, bring with you to a show, wheel around, put it in the back of your pickup. The smaller unit, the HG1, that is round and circular. It doesn't have wheels on it, but it's almost similar to like a grain tin bin or a garbage can. So the HG600, which is this unit right here, and the smaller HG1 tend to be the most travel friendly. The HG2000, which is the largest unit, that is a bit heavy. Not something, it does have wheels on it and you can wheel it, but that's made more to, sit in a barn, not necessarily. You can move it as one person. It makes it easier if you have two. But that's not really meant to travel.
Okay. Beth asks, do you have to cool the hay after steaming it, or is it good to go?
Yep. So it's good to go when you do open the unit. Like as you see now, it's pretty hot right now. So it's not like you would want it. It does come with heat gloves as well. Usually, if you just give it like 30 seconds or so to let the steam kind of come out, and then by the time you pick it up and drop it in the paddock, it's ready to feed. So it's not like you have to wait a significant amount of time to feed it. Usually open the top, and within 30 to 60 seconds, you're ready to pull it out and feed it.
We have 2 sizes available at Valley Vet. We had people ask about the capacity, but we have the half bale and the full bale, so the 600 and the 2000.
Yeah, and so the 600, that's this unit right here. I right now I have 2 string bales that are about like 50, 60 pounds. I have about like half a bale, 3/4 of a bale in here now. You can also, if you feed out of hay nets, you can also use hay nets. So usually I can get about like 2 big hay nets, 2 to 3 smaller hay nets in this one. And then the HD 2000, that can take a full 3 string bale. So that can take quite a bit of hay. The HD 2000 also has 2 boilers. And so there's, this unit just has 1 boiler. And if you have, the 2 string bales like I have, you can usually fit about a bale and a half in the HD 2000.
Okay. Do you have to use all of the hay as soon as it is steamed?
No. So as long as you feed it within 24 hours post-steam, that is considered safe. You can certainly, if you wanted to get the HD 600, say, and you only have 1 horse and only feed a few flakes at a time, you could certainly steam for a 24-hour period, and then you just steam once per day, and you can feed that throughout the 24 hours.
I thought there was a question on how much time they ran. Does that size and the other size, the 2000?
Yes.
Does it take an hour?
Yes. So all of the units take an hour for the steam cycle. It doesn't matter on the size.
How often do they need to be cleaned?
Yep, so the boiler itself, which is, like I said, the small block unit that generates the steam, we usually recommend using the descaler packets. If you buy a new unit, it does come with a few, and then you can purchase them. We recommend descaling usually about every 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, depending on your water. And basically what that does is you are just getting rid of, any type of the mineral buildup in your boiler to make sure that it's running efficiently and going to last you the longest. That's a pretty simple, easy process. Doesn't take a lot of time. The test itself, so this guy right here, I usually recommend, just kind of hosing it out, scrubbing. There's what's called the manifold at the bottom of that, and that has the spikes in it, and that's what injects the steam into the hay. So usually what I recommend is, every 1 to 2 weeks, just taking it outside the barn, getting your little scrubby brush that you use to, scrub out your buckets in your trough, bring your hose with you and just, hose it down, get any pieces of loose hay that are at the bottom, take the scrubber over the manifold, and that way, it just keeps it nice and fresh and clean. But it's certainly not something, that takes up a lot of time. It's very, very easy to clean.
Okay.
I think a lot of times too, people get concerned that because it's, a bigger unit, it's expensive, it's going to take, all of this work to keep it running and keep it clean. We do offer, a 1-year full warranty, but fitting it into your barn routine really can be quite simple. It probably takes the same amount of time as cleaning out a trough every few weeks.
Does the steaming, oh, sorry, Mel, go ahead.
Priscilla had a question. Does the hay lose color after it's steamed?
Yeah, so some hay, depending on the hay you're feeding, Some hay will lose color a little bit. Sometimes it will brown a little bit. That has nothing to do with not changing, you know, the consistency or the hay itself, the nutritional content. When you are steaming hay, you are not losing any of the nutrients. The only thing that is lowered a little bit is the WSC, which are the water-soluble carbohydrates. That is a variable loss, but you are not actually losing any of the nutrients in the hay. And that's kind of actually a really important point that sometimes people don't really realize. When you are soaking hay, you know, depending on what you're soaking for, obviously sometimes you need to soak to really reduce all of the sugars in the hay. But if you are soaking, say, to get rid of the dust, what you're doing by soaking is you're actually leaching out all of those really, really important nutrients that, you know, you're paying for in your good quality hay that we all want our horses to be eating. And so the really nice thing about steaming is that you are not losing those nutrients. So you're able to, you know, feed the cleanest, most hygienic hay possible, while also keeping the nutrients.
Lori had asked if this would help a senior horse with bad teeth.
Yes, absolutely. So we do have horses, you know, obviously always this is something you're going to want to check with your licensed veterinarian just based off of, you know, that specific horse. But we do have horses, especially senior horses that, you know, are having some teeth issues, some mouth issues, maybe eating, you know, soaked feed, soaked alfalfa pellets that do really well on the steamed hay because it does make it softer and a bit easier for them to chew.
Okay. We have a lot of questions here that you've already covered. So
no, that's great though.
Yeah.
I have Ashley and Aaron. They said we own Nubian dairy goats. Would this be something we could also use for their hay?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually do. One of my coworkers does have clients that has goats. So any type of hay can be, you know, steamed in the hay steamer. Obviously, Haygain, we focus on horses, but you can certainly steam this for your goats. We've even had people ask about using it for their rabbits. So it's not just, you know, directly for equines.
Tammy asked if you've ever had trouble getting a horse to first eat it. She said her horse does not care for wet hay.
So there are some horses, it's, you know, definitely on the rarer side that they will not eat the steamed hay right off the bat. We have had some horses that are very, you know, on the pickier side. And so usually what we suggest is just to transition over like you would do, you know, any type of different hay. So basically, you know, just starting mixing the hay, doing, you know, half and half or 3/4 and 1/4, just over, you know, a week's time. And pretty much at the end of that, then they are more than happy to eat the steamed hay. I actually, I had a client in Vermont whose horse would only eat her second cut hay. And this was pre-COVID when we were traveling around to barns and doing hay steaming demos, and, you know, she's really interested just in the hay steamer and the benefits, and her horse is very picky, sometimes even just with the second cut hay, if there was, you know, variables and variability in it, he wouldn't eat it, and he was a little bit of an older guy. So I told her, I said, let's just for the heck of it, let's steam the first cut hay. She's like, he's never gonna eat it, like, it's not even worth it. Like, I was like, well, let's see, we can do, you know, half second cut, half first cut. I was like, let's just see if we can see if he'll eat it steamed. So we steamed the hay, brought the first cut out to his paddock. She's like, there's no way he can eat it. She dropped it in the paddock. He walked over. It was still like steaming a little bit because it was hot. He walked over, he kind of sniffed it, and then all of a sudden he just started eating it, and she was like totally floored. It was awesome. And you know, we were kind of talking, and he just ate the whole flake up. And she couldn't believe it. So
I think you covered this already, but you can use hay bags in there as well as loose hay, correct?
Yeah, so you can put loose hay in or hay nets.
Okay.
And that way, if you feed in hay nets, you know, you can certainly put them in the hay steamer already, you know, and then you just take them out and feed them.
I think you kind of mentioned something about this too, but Shelby says that she has a special needs horse that has to have his hay soaked to remove some of the sugars. So would this do the same for removal of the sugars?
So there's varying research out there. We see a reduction in WSD, water-soluble carbohydrates, anywhere from 3 to 14%. So depending on your horse's needs and what your licensed veterinarian feels comfortable with, the best thing is to have your hay tested to know kind of where you stand. We usually tell people, if you're looking in that like 2 to 3% reduction, steaming might be enough. But if you are looking to completely rid the hay of the sugars, then usually what is recommended is to soak the hay to rid the hay of the sugars and then put it through the steaming cycle. And what that does too is because obviously as you're soaking the hay, you're increasing the bacteria. So even a 10-minute soak is increasing the bacteria over 150%. So then what you'll want to do is you will want to steam afterwards to make sure that what you've done by soaking, which obviously you're trying to get out the sugars, but you're able to undo with the steaming. So it really just depends on what your licensed veterinarian, their thoughts on it, and kind of the hay you're starting with. There's a little bit of variables on that, and we tend to obviously err on the side of caution that if you're looking to completely reduce the sugars, then you might need to soak and then steam. But we have also had clients who, have been able to test their hay and then test it post steaming, and are able to look at those results and, look those over with their licensed veterinarian, and the veterinarian is okay with them just steaming based off of those results. But obviously it varies.
What are the power requirements for the hay steamers?
Yep, so the HD1 and the HD600, so they get plugged into a regular outlet, 1500 watts. They, usually in most barns, obviously you always want to check with your barn electrical, especially you'll have like an older barn. Most barns can handle the single boiler. We always, do tell people with the HD2000, this is something you always, want to look into, make sure your barn can handle the electric, because that takes 2 boilers. So that's twice the amount, and you will want those 2 boilers plugged into 2 different outlets on 2 different circuits. Just because they do, with the 2 boilers combined, it does draw, quite a bit of energy, and just depending on what your barn is rated for, sometimes, a single outlet is not enough. So the HD2000 is one that will take the 2 boilers, and that can be a bit more energy. But the HD1 and the HD600 just take the single 1500 watt boiler.
Kim asked, how does steamed hay help with respiratory health?
Oh, can you say that again? Cut out.
How does steamed hay help with respiratory health?
Yeah, absolutely. So horses that are suffering from a respiratory disorder, a lot of times the dust and the respirable particles in the hay are aggravating them. Obviously, dust that's in their environment as well, but anything you can do to eliminate dust in their environment is always beneficial. So by steaming the hay, you are able to reduce the dust by over 99%. Versus dry hay. And obviously too, one of the biggest things that we kind of run into with horses that have a respiratory condition is soaking. A lot of people will end up soaking their hay, but then with that, you end up having, the reduction in the nutrients, which you don't really want for a horse that has respiratory issues, especially sometimes with the horses that have heaves. Sometimes keeping weight on them can be a challenge if they're having a flare up. So that's what's really great about the steaming as well. But the biggest thing with, a horse that has a respiratory condition is the reduction in dust. It's just one more thing that you are able to, eliminate in their environment. To make it that much easier on them. And also too, the dust and the bacteria and the fungi that can, as it goes into their body, that can aggravate them, that can aggravate their airways. And so over time that can really make it harder for them. So by feeding the steamed hay, you're able to know that, okay, I'm feeding the hay, it does not, over 99% of the dust is gone, the mold is gone, especially portions that, have an allergy. The bacteria is gone and the fungi is
gone. Leah asked about the shelf life, which I think you covered. Didn't you say it was 24 hours that you had to have everything?
Yeah, so as long as you feed within 24 hours post-steam, that is okay.
Okay. How many times a day can you run the steamer?
Yeah, so, we have some barns that have it running the majority of the day because they have, 30 plus horses to feed. That's certainly fine. So it's not like you can only run it once a day. The boiler itself takes a gallon of water, and each 60-minute steam cycle takes a little over a quart of water. So you get about 3 steams to every fill up of the boiler. So obviously if it's, you do have a bigger facility and you are having to steam multiple times a day, that's just something you want to keep an eye on, making sure that, there's water in the boiler, but you can certainly, keep it on and do multiple batches in a day. I have a barn in Massachusetts. They have 2 units, 30 to 40 horses, and they use it multiple times a day. They test me, just said they have it running, most of the day doing steam cycles. And I think just kind of, on that point, a lot of times we get the question of, are there differences in the units besides the size? So all the units do exactly the same thing. It really is just the amount of hay they hold. So you can certainly, if you wanted to get a smaller size unit because that's what fits in your barn, in your facility, even in your budget, and you wanted to use it a few times a day, that's something that you can totally do as well.
Awesome information.
Yeah, you guys can see too. It's getting going. What's happening now is, so after the 60-minute steam cycle, there's a little thermometer on the top of the hay steamer. It gets into the green zone. So after a 60-minute steam cycle, you do, want to check and make sure it is in that green zone. So this hay right now, well, you also want it to sit at, excuse me, in the green zone for 10 minutes. But that 60-minute cycle does include, the time in that 10-minute green zone. So this hay pretty much would be ready to go.
Can you go over, Debbie has just asked what's the recommendation for using in freezing temperatures. Can you kind of cover that again? I know you talked a little bit about it.
No, absolutely. So the biggest thing when using it in the freezing temperatures, if you don't have an area, that's warmer or that's gonna, stay above freezing. So the boiler, which is the small unit that generates the steam, that holds a gallon of water. So just depending on how much you filled it up after using it, you will want to just empty it out. That way, nothing in there, nothing is able to freeze. There is a small black hose that connects it's pretty small, like a few feet, that connects the steamer, the HS to the boiler. And then that you'll just want to, shake out a little bit to make sure there's no water in it. If it's going to get really cold and you see some water on the bottom of the unit, you can kind of just tilt it. It has a little drip hole at the bottom and just kind of get that water out. But the biggest thing is just making sure you empty the boiler. Same way you would drain a hose to make sure that the hose doesn't freeze.
Kathleen wanted to know if you can steam for less than an hour.
So the hour, we always recommend for steaming for an hour. And the reason why we recommend the hour is that hour includes the time it takes for the boiler to generate the steam. That can take up to a half hour. And then obviously the temperature needs to climb inside of the unit. And then you want it to steam in that green zone for 10 minutes. So that hour we kind of just say is a safe way to make sure that your hay is steamed correctly.
Okay, and you said the warranty was 1 year?
Yes, when you're
When you're
right.
ready. All right. I think we've pretty much covered all the questions.
Yeah. I think
Awesome.
Wow.
So
If you guys have any more questions, go ahead, leave them in the comments. We will get with Katie and get them answered for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you everyone so much for joining in and learning all about our hay steamers. Obviously, you know, you can always ask Valley Vet or ask us any questions you have. You can find me on Facebook as well. Katie Levy, Haygain, New England. If you have any questions you think of after this, happy to answer them.
And we will be sharing the link. I think it's already in there in the comments to the hay steamer, so you can go on and check those out as well. So, Katie, we really appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.